I never thought I'd be the one telling this story. You know, we all think we're invincible, don't we? Even at 72. Especially at 72, maybe. Because by then, you figure if something was gonna get you, it would have happened already. My name is Robert, and 3 years ago, my doctor looked me straight in the eyes and said, "If you don't make changes now, you might not be here to see your grandchildren graduate." I nodded politely, took his paperwork, and then ignored everything he told me. That decision nearly cost me everything. Looking back, the warning signs were everywhere. I'd get winded just walking to the mailbox. My knees ached constantly. Sleep. Forget about it. I was up 4 or 5 times a night. And the heartburn. My goodness, it was like a dragon lived in my chest. But you know what we do, right? We rationalize. I'm just getting older, I tell myself. Everyone my age feels this way. I'd pop another antacid and go about my day. My wife Jean would give me that look, "You married folks know the one," whenever I'd groan getting out of my recliner, or when I'd turn down playing with the grandkids because I was too tired. She'd been suggesting I see a doctor for years. When I finally went, it wasn't even for a checkup. It was for a persistent cough that wouldn't go away after 3 weeks. That's when Dr. Peterson dropped the bombshell. "Robert, your blood pressure is dangerously high. Your cholesterol numbers are concerning. You're showing early signs of type 2 diabetes. And you're carrying about 50 pounds more than your frame was designed to support." I remember sitting there in that paper gown, feeling exposed in more ways than one. He continued, "At your age, these aren't just numbers on a chart. They're ticking time bombs. I'd like to tell you that I had an immediate epiphany. That I walked out of that office a changed man, ready to overhaul my entire lifestyle. I didn't. Instead, I did what many of us do. I filled the prescriptions he gave me but made no other changes. I figured the pills would take care of everything. Why change your habits when there's a pill for that, right? For 6 more months, I continued exactly as before. Fast food twice a week. My evening routine of TV and snacks. Zero exercise beyond what was required to get through the day. Then came that Tuesday morning in April. I was in the garage, looking for my hedge trimmers, when suddenly the room started spinning. There was this pressure in my chest, like someone had parked a car on it. My left arm felt strange, not painful exactly, but wrong. I managed to call out to Jean before collapsing onto the concrete floor. The next thing I remember is the hospital ceiling. The steady beep of monitors. The concerned faces of my family. Mini heart attack, the cardiologist called it. A warning shot across the bow. As I lay there, with tubes and wires connecting me to various machines, I saw the fear in my grandchildren's eyes. My 7-year-old granddaughter Lily asked her mother in a whisper that wasn't quite quiet enough, "Is Grandpa going to die?" That's when it hit me. Really hit me. This wasn't just about me anymore. Recovery from a cardiac event isn't quick, and it isn't easy. But it does give you something precious, perspective, and time to think. During those first weeks at home, moving slowly, taking my new regimen of medications, I had a lot of conversations with Jean. About our future. About what we still wanted to do together. About how I wanted to be remembered by our grandkids. I don't want them to remember me as the grandpa who was always too tired to play, I told her one evening. I want to be the grandpa who taught them to fish, who went camping with them, who was there for their graduations and weddings. Jean squeezed my hand and said something I'll never forget. Then you need to start making different choices today. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in probably 20 years. I put on an old pair of sneakers and walked to the end of our driveway. That's it, just to the mailbox and back. I was winded, my knees hurt, and I felt ridiculous. But I did it. The following day, I walked to the neighbor's driveway and back. The day after that, a little farther. I also had my first appointment with a nutritionist. Now I'll be honest with you, I went in skeptical. I grew up in an era where men didn't worry about things like balanced meals or portion control. We ate what was put in front of us and were thankful for it. But Lisa, my nutritionist, didn't try to turn me into a kale smoothie drinking yoga enthusiast overnight. Instead, she asked me about my favorite foods and then suggested small modifications. You love burgers. Great. Let's try making them at home with lean ground turkey instead of fast food beef. You enjoy your evening snacks. No problem. Let's find options that won't spike your blood sugar right before bed. Small changes. Nothing radical. Nothing that made me feel like I was on some kind of punishment diet. Here's something they don't tell you about getting older. It's never too late to learn new tricks. In fact, there's something liberating about making changes in your 70s. You've lived long enough to know what matters, and you've stopped caring so much about what others think. 3 months after my heart attack, I had my follow-up with Dr. Peterson. My blood pressure was down. My resting heart rate had improved. I'd lost 11 pounds. Not dramatic, but heading in the right direction. What's changed? He asked me. I told him about my daily walks, which had extended to nearly a mile by then. About how Jean and I had overhauled our pantry. About how I was sleeping better and had more energy throughout the day. He smiled and said, "That's great, Robert." But what changed in here? He tapped his temple. I thought about it for a moment. I guess I finally realized that getting older doesn't have to mean feeling terrible. And that it's never too late to make changes. He nodded. That's the most important change of all, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. Let me tell you about the day I nearly gave up, about 3 months into my new routine. I'd been making steady progress with mine. Walking, even bought myself proper walking shoes after Jean insisted my old sneakers were a podiatric disaster waiting to happen. I was up to about 1.5 miles each morning, enjoying the early quiet of our neighborhood. Then came the setback. I developed a painful case of plantar fasciitis. That's inflammation in the bottom of your foot, for those of you lucky enough never to have experienced it. Every step felt like walking on broken glass. I was frustrated, angry even. Here I was, finally doing the right thing, and my body was betraying me. I spent 3 days moping in my recliner, feeling sorry for myself and seriously considering just going back to my old habits. What was the point if exercise was just going to cause more problems? Jean, bless her, let me sulk for those 3 days. On the 4th morning, she put a pair of swimming trunks on the bed. "Get dressed," she said. "We're going to the community center." "I can't walk, Jean," I protested. "You're not going to walk. You're going to swim. Now I hadn't been in a pool in decades. The thought of being seen in swimming trunks at my age, with my body, was mortifying. But Jean has a way of not taking no for an answer when she knows she's right. The community center had a seniors water aerobics class 3 mornings a week. The instructor, a spry woman in her 60s named Dolores, welcomed me warmly. "Don't worry," she said, "the water is forgiving. It holds you up while still giving you resistance." That first class nearly did me in. I was breathless after 10 minutes. But here's the thing, it didn't hurt my feet. And I was surrounded by other people my age, all shapes and sizes, all working on their own health journeys. I went back. Again and again. Made friends there. Started looking forward to it. And when my plantar fasciitis finally healed, I kept swimming twice a week and added my walks back on the other days. The lesson: adaptability might be the most important skill as we age. When one path gets blocked, find another. Something unexpected happened as I continued making these changes. People around me started changing too. Jean, who'd always been more health conscious than me, but had fallen into some of our shared bad habits, began joining me on my walks. We'd use that time to talk, really talk, in a way we hadn't in years. My son Michael, who at 45 was already showing some of the same warning signs I'd ignored, asked me about my new eating habits. Before long, he and his wife were inviting us over for healthy dinner exchanges. They'd cook one week using their new recipes, we'd host the next. Even my poker buddies, a stubborn bunch of old-timers if ever there was one, started bringing veggie trays to our weekly game instead of just chips and dip. Don't get me wrong, we still had our beers and cigars occasionally. We didn't turn into health fanatics. But the consciousness was there. One day, about 8 months after my heart attack, my granddaughter Lily was visiting. She watched me prepare my lunch, a colorful salad with grilled chicken. "Grandpa," she said, "remember when you used to get tired all the time? You don't do that anymore. Kids notice everything, don't they?" She was right. The afternoon fatigue that I'd accepted as an inevitable part of aging had all but disappeared. "You know what, Lily?" I replied. "After lunch, how about we go to the park? I think I can still push you on the swings." The look of delight on her face was worth every early morning walk, every sore muscle, every passed-up dessert. Now, I'm not just telling you how I felt better. I have the numbers to prove it. 1 year after my heart attack at age 73, my checkup showed blood pressure from 168/95 down to 128/82. Total cholesterol from 242 down to 187. Weight, 47 pounds less than my starting point. Resting heart rate from 88 to 72 beats per minute. Dr. Peterson was almost as pleased as I was. "Robert," he said, "if all my patients listened to me like you've done this past year, I'd be out of a job." I laughed. "Well, I didn't listen at first. Had to learn the hard way." He got serious then. "That's usually how it goes. But you know what makes you different from many others. You got your wake-up call and actually woke up. Many people hit the snooze button even after a health scare. That stuck with me. How many of us get warnings from our bodies, from our doctors, from the people who love us and choose to ignore them? But numbers only tell part of the story. The real victory was in the everyday moments. Being able to get down on the floor to play with my youngest grandchild and get back up without help. Having the stamina to travel again, Jean and I took our first overseas trip in a decade, exploring the coast of Portugal for 2 weeks. Sleeping through the night without acid reflux waking me up. These weren't dramatic, movie-worthy transformations. They were quiet victories, the kind that add up day by day until suddenly you realize you're living an entirely different life. I want to be clear about something. Making these changes in my 70s wasn't easy. There are unique challenges to transforming your health later in life that younger people might not understand. First, there's the simple fact that our bodies don't respond as quickly. Recovery takes longer. Results come more slowly. That can be discouraging when you're putting in the work, but not seeing dramatic changes. Then there's the lifetime of habits to overcome. I'd been eating certain ways, moving certain ways, thinking certain ways for 7 decades. Those neural pathways are deeply etched. There's also the social aspect. Many of our friendships and family relationships in our senior years are built around shared activities, often sedentary ones. Changing your lifestyle can sometimes feel like you're pulling away from these important connections. And finally, there's the attitude that it's too late anyway. I hear this from friends my age all the time. Why bother changing now? The damage is done. But here's what I discovered. It's never too late to improve your quality of life. Even if you can't reverse all the damage, you can prevent things from getting worse. You can feel better tomorrow than you do today. And isn't that worth something? I remember a conversation with my brother-in-law Frank, who's about my age. He watched me pass up dessert at a family gathering and shook his head. "What's the point, Bob?" he asked. "We're in our 70s. The game's almost over anyway." I thought about that for a moment before answering. "It's not about how long the game goes, Frank. It's about how well you play while you're still on the field." He didn't have a response to that. And 2 weeks later, he called to ask about my walking routine. One of the most important lessons I've learned through all this is the value of preventive care. For most of my life, my approach to healthcare was reactive. I only went to the doctor when something was obviously wrong. Now I understand that regular checkups, screenings, and tests aren't just bureaucratic hoops to jump through. They're early warning systems that can catch problems before they become crises. I get my blood work done every 6 months now. I see my cardiologist regularly. I even got that colonoscopy I'd been putting off for years. Prevention isn't just about doctor visits, though. It's about the daily choices that either build health or undermine it. The foods we eat, the movement we engage in, the stress we manage or don't manage, the sleep we prioritize or sacrifice. Dr. Peterson explained it to me this way. "Robert, think of your body like a car. You wouldn't wait until the engine explodes before getting an oil change. You do regular maintenance to prevent bigger problems." That analogy stuck with me. We're so careful about maintaining our vehicles, our homes, even our lawns, but we often neglect the most important maintenance of all, our bodies. And here's something else I've learned about preventive care. It's never too late to start, but the sooner you start, the better the outcomes. I wish I'd begun these habits in my 50s or 60s. The changes would have been easier, and I might have avoided that heart attack altogether. But I can't change the past. I can only make better choices today for a better tomorrow. Perhaps the most surprising discovery in all of this has been finding genuine enjoyment in these new healthy habits. I expected it to feel like a punishment giving up foods I loved, forcing myself to exercise, constantly monitoring my health. Instead, I've found unexpected pleasures. There's a meditative quality to my morning walks, time alone with my thoughts as the world wakes up around me. The swimming classes have become as much a social outlet as exercise. And exploring new, healthier recipes with Jean has become a shared adventure. One of our new traditions is our Sunday farmers market excursion. We make an outing of it, walking the stalls, chatting with the vendors, planning our meals for the week based on what looks fresh and appealing. Last Sunday, we discovered a variety of heirloom tomato I'd never tasted before, so sweet and flavorful it was like a completely different fruit from the bland supermarket versions. See what we would have missed if you hadn't had that heart attack. Jean joked as we walked home with our canvas bags full of colorful produce. Dark humor perhaps, but she wasn't entirely wrong. This health journey has opened up new experiences, new connections, new pleasures I might never have discovered otherwise. I've also found joy in the increased energy for my passions. I used to love woodworking, but had gradually stopped as it became too tiring to stand for long periods in my workshop. Now I'm back at it, currently crafting a dollhouse for Lily's birthday. The focus and flow I experience while working with my hands is its own form of medicine. If there's one thing I want to emphasize, it's this: no one makes significant life changes in isolation. We all need support. For me, Jean has been the cornerstone. She changed her cooking, joined me in exercise, celebrated every small victory, and gently redirected me when I started to slip back into old patterns. Without her partnership, I doubt I would have sustained these changes. But my support system extends beyond Jean. There's Dr. Peterson and his team, who provide the medical guidance and accountability. There's the water aerobics group, where we cheer each other on and notice when someone's missing. There's my children and grandchildren, whose future presence in my life gives me a compelling why for these changes. I've also found unexpected support in technology. My daughter Michelle gave me a fitness tracker for Christmas last year. I was skeptical at first. At my age, learning new technology doesn't always come easily. But I've come to appreciate the gentle reminders to move, the validation of seeing my steps add up, and even the little celebration it gives me when I reach my daily goals. If you're contemplating changes to your health habits, especially later in life, my advice is this: identify your potential support network and be willing to lean on them. Pride can be a barrier here. Many of us who have been independent our whole lives struggle to ask for help. I certainly did. But accepting support isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And remember that support comes in many forms. Sometimes it's practical help, like Jean researching heart-healthy recipes. Sometimes it's accountability, like my doctor checking my numbers. Sometimes it's just emotional encouragement when the journey gets tough. No one climbs a mountain alone. And make no mistake, changing deeply entrenched health habits in your senior years is definitely a mountain. So here I am, 3 years after that warning I initially ignored. At 75, I'm healthier than I was at 65. I'm not running marathons, and that was never the goal. But I'm living fully, actively, and with a quality of life I had resigned myself to losing. If you're watching this and recognizing yourself in my story, the ignored warnings, the rationalized symptoms, the reluctance to change comfortable habits. I hope you won't wait for your own wake-up call moment. Mine could have been fatal. Not everyone gets a second chance. Start where you are. Start small. A 10-minute walk. One less sugary drink. A conversation with your doctor about preventive screenings. Small changes compound over time into transformed lives. And if you're already in the midst of health challenges, know that it's never too late to improve your situation. Your body has an amazing capacity to respond to positive changes, even after decades of neglect. I'll leave you with something my granddaughter Lily said to me recently. We were at the park, and I'd been pushing her on the swing for a good 15 minutes, something that would have been impossible for me 3 years ago. When she was ready to move on to the slide, she looked at me and said, "Grandpa, I'm glad you fixed yourself." Out of the mouths of babes, right? That's what it comes down to. I fixed myself with help, with support, with perseverance through setbacks. Not perfectly, not completely, but significantly. Enough to change the trajectory of my remaining years. You can do the same. Today's choices become tomorrow's reality. Choose well, my friends. Your future self will thank you. And remember, your doctor's warnings aren't just words. They're a glimpse into a future you still have the power to change.